Well, hello, Joanne. Happy Monday. It's a Monday again. How you been?
Good, Ed. How are you?
I'm doing good. As good as we can, right? We're sheltering in place, doing our thing, making sure that we contribute to the solution and not being part of the problem. Supposedly, these next 2 weeks are going to be the most critical weeks. We're supposed to peak. We'll see. I am definitely praying and hoping that that's the case. So, everybody, we have a very, very cool treat here. We have Joanne Yawitz. She has been an executive career coach for over 30 years. She has Living Your Dream coaching. And so I brought her on today because, look, let's be honest, there's a lot of people who either have lost or going to lose their jobs, or there's going to be a reduction in pay or hours. And so I wanted to bring her on since she's such an expert for so long to give us some thoughts, some info, some maybe, for the lack of a better term, some hacks on how we can cope with this better and come out the other end winning, as Martin Sheen says, or Charlie Sheen says. We want to be winning, so we want to give you some tools and some resources. So thank you again, Joanne, for coming on. And I'm gonna ask you the first question, which is, I mean, what does a person do today that has lost their job? I look at it two ways. One is, yes, there's the hardship of losing your job, but maybe that person's a person who really didn't like their job to begin with. And is this a good time to maybe think about, should I retool my life and my resume and go pursue a career that I really wanted, that will be more of a calling as opposed to just a job? Just food for thought.
Thank you so much, Ed, for inviting me.
You're welcome.
It's a very timely question, needless to say. As we all know, we're experiencing the shelter in place throughout the country, if not the world, that our typical schedules have changed. It could be that we're working from home. It could be, as you said, people are furloughed or they've lost their job. Needless to say, that creates a lot of stress in someone's life. As an executive career coach, I'm not trying to be Pollyanna-ish about it, but I pride myself on pointing out the silver lining in difficult situations. The virus obviously is traumatic for all of us. However, that being said, there are ways to make the best of this challenging time. You alluded to many things, Ed. As I was knowing you were going to interview me today, I came up with a list, and 5 of the points happen to start with an R. So I'll quickly say what the points are, but then we can talk about it.
Beautiful.
1 is reflect. 2, research. 3, reach out. 4, revise. 5, reconnect. Let me explain what each of those words mean to me in the context of somebody having uncertainty about their job and their career.
Perfect. Let's unpack it. I like it.
Unpack it. Great word. Reflect. Ed, you and I were reflecting a little bit before we started the interview today of how we feel, how our lives have changed for the better, for the worse. The silver lining is we typically have more time on our hands. And this staying in place gives us time for perspective and reflection. It can be reflecting in your living room. It can be reflecting, listening to music. It can be going out for a walk. For me, I've learned over the years that my best ideas related to my job and my business and my career and helping my clients occur when I'm out of my office. It's because I'm walking, I'm exercising, my endorphins are going, and I'm not necessarily saying, oh, how can I address this situation? But it just pops up for me organically. Just food for thought for your viewers. But the point of reflect is think about your situation. Perhaps you were furloughed or laid off. There's economic uncertainty, but maybe this is the best gift that ever happened to you. Maybe it's going to propel you to seriously think about what you liked and didn't like about your job or your career. And this could be an opportunity to manifest something that's going to provide you with greater meaning and greater
I
satisfaction.
couldn't agree more. You know, there are very little to no coincidences in life, right? So maybe this is that reboot that many of us needed.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean you're going to reflect for 5 minutes and you're going to have the answer. Just go with it. It's a journey. See where it leads you. In that, your reflection, you were mentioning this earlier, Ed, that you're someone who just likes to take a blank piece of paper and write down your thoughts. That's totally fine. I encourage that. Some of the exercises I suggest for my clients who are unhappy in their job, but they don't know necessarily what they want to do next, is I'll have them say, write down the things that you love about your job or you love about your career, and write down the things that you don't like. That in and of itself can be a powerful inventory. Another valuable exercise can be, if you had $10 million in the bank and you knew you still wanted to work, what would be on your wish list for your next dream job? Write that down. What are those things? Maybe you want to work from home. Maybe you don't want to work from home. Maybe you want to move. Maybe you want to change industries. Whatever that is. And what are those things that you're absolutely certain that you don't want as your dream job? If you have the time, do it with yourself, but I also say ask your partner, your spouse, your close friends, your family members. Ask them the question, when you think about me in my work life or in life in general, when am I happiest and when am I least happy? Ask them these open-ended questions and you may be really surprised by what they say. Not that they're necessarily contradicting what your list is, but they may have remembered something that happened a year and a half ago that was a fantastic experience or a horrible experience for you that you totally forgot.
That's a great, great exercise. I got to tell you, I never, ever even thought to do that. That's super insightful because they know you. They know you from the outside as well. Where you, sometimes we have this personal bias, right? Where they see you in maybe areas that you don't even or haven't been paying attention, but they have. That's a great, great exercise.
Exactly. The other reason why I particularly like that exercise is most people, particularly now if people have more time on their hands, they're going to be flattered that you chose them. You asked them this question. They're part of your inner circle. And even if it's a family member who you have a hot and cold relationship with, the nature of this kind of question is neutral. It's not intended to bring up, when we were 3 years old and we used to always fight about such and such. It's just, it's somebody else's perspective reflecting back to you about your experiences and how they saw you without judgment. And so it's a form of a 360-degree view of yourself. And as a sidebar, if you ask people this question, don't tell them what you came up on your list. Just have them start with a blank sheet so they're not going to be biased. Moving on to point number 2, research. Research in this case may be online. It could be, I'm working in such and such job in this particular industry. I know I like the industry, but I don't like my company. So you can research other companies that may be appealing to you. Again, it could be, my dream has always been to work in a completely different industry, but I didn't have the guts, I didn't have the time, whatever that is. Research that online. we all talk of, researching online can take forever, but if you're focused, you may be surprised by what you uncover. The next piece is reach out. Reach out to people who perhaps you've always wanted to work at XYZ company and you know somebody there, but you never got around to calling them. Or through LinkedIn or some of your other networking organizations, you might know somebody who knows somebody who works at XYZ organization. So for example, Ed, you might know somebody. So I could reach out to you, Ed, could you introduce me to John Doe or Susan Smith at XYZ organization? And that can be a really good opportunity to conduct an informational interview. And very briefly, for those of you who don't know, an informational interview, it's speaking to somebody who is in an organization you're interested in, an industry you're interested in, or in a function you're interested in. And you want to ask them questions about their firsthand experience with that. And there's a lot to be gained from that. For example, they might say, well, I love my job because I'm really autonomous. It involves a lot of reading, it involves a lot of research. And so you're hearing that, but then you're realizing, whoa, when I'm in a work environment, I don't like to work autonomously. I like teamwork. So that doesn't mean don't pursue that opportunity, but it's a data point for you. And you have the benefit of somebody working in that job or function or company for years. And so you're getting their knowledge, and you don't have to learn the hard way of whether or not that potentially could be a good fit for you. In the context of reaching out, if it is something like an informational interview, if it's something brand new to you, I strongly suggest talking to at least 3 to 5 people in that company or in that function. So you don't only have one data point, but you have at least 3 to 5 to get an idea of the range or if there's a consensus about a certain issue.
Yeah, I love this point because, I mean, we've heard this many times and it's very cliche that your net worth is based on your network. And now more than ever in times like these, it's so important to deploy your network and make it work for you, and also to help other people with the network that you have so we can continue to daisy chain the opportunity to bless a lot of people. I think that's so critical that people do activate their network, because that's more important than any job you're going to post a resume to. Your network is going to sell you because they know you.
I strongly agree with that. Something that's really important to know about the informational interview is it's an informational interview. You don't approach somebody and say, can I speak to you as an informational interview? But really your agenda is you want to ask them if they have a job opening in their group or in their company. That's really not cool. And if you want somebody to be turned off by you quickly by this bait and switch, that's what you do. It's really not cool. If the person you're speaking to says, oh, Ed, by the way, we have this job opening, it could be a potential fit for you, that's a completely different scenario. But you do not cross that line with them.
It's only if they offer it up.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The fourth R is revise. And Ed, you brought this up. Revising your resume. For most people, writing your resume is really a pain in the neck. That being said, it's usually a necessary evil. Most people don't have updated resumes. This is a wonderful opportunity to revise your resume. It could simply be updating related to what your current job is. Add that to your resume. It could be a complete revamp, again, depending on how you want to use this time and what you genuinely seek for your next workplace.
It's sometimes even the look, right, Joanne, of your resume. Maybe it's too general. Maybe now that this has happened and you've been thinking about what career change you would like to make, that maybe you make that resume a little bit more towards that industry that you are now selecting to go into, so that you can make it custom, make it look nicer. Even, I mean, it's amazing how even like a font will make something pop.
Again, I strongly agree with you. It can be a font. It can be spacing. I often tell my clients, it's not only the words on the piece of paper of your resume, but it's how you present the words. It's obviously the writing, but it's also the visuals. The white space is as important as the content. An example is some people, they'll say, okay, I have to limit my resume to 2 pages. And so they cram it. They have 1/8-inch margins and it's chock full of information and it's completely not inviting to read. So it's very important to consider that as well. You want to invite the reader to keep going, keep going, keep going. And for the purposes of this brief conversation, that means, as you said, Ed, the font, the underline, the bold,
The format.
the format, the indentation, the consistencies. Make sure you don't have typos. And somebody could have 20 to 30 years work experience. You probably don't need to outline every job you had in your first 10 years. So you can summarize in 1 line, or you can incorporate some of the content into some of the other jobs you've had. Oftentimes people might do a similar job for lots of different companies, so you don't have to repeat your responsibilities 5 times.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you know, it's true. You mentioned that. Look, it's not necessarily, you know, it could be a pain and all these things. What I say to you is, think about why you're doing it. You need to anchor it to what the result and the outcome you want, so that you can retrain your brain on how you see things and your perspective on resume writing. Because it's true. I mean, it's not on David Letterman's top 10 things to do with your free time. I get it. However, you can re-engineer, you know, retrain the brain, I call it, to anchor it to your why. Every time you anchor things, whether they're fun things or they're not so fun, to your why, it just elevates the ability for us to see it through the task and to get it done, because you're anchoring it. If you don't, it's just another task and it's boring. You're right.
Tangential to what you're saying is transferable skills. And that's always relevant. It's even more particularly relevant if you want to change industries or if you want to change functions. With a smile on my face, I call myself the queen of transferable skills. I have this innate ability. I can look at somebody's resume, they say, I've done this, I want to go do this, and I can just rattle off 8 or 12 transferable skills. And it's really important to get somebody to help you identify your transferable skills. And you need to name them for yourself when you eventually have a job interview or an informational interview. You need to also be able to name them on your resume. You have to do the work for the prospective employer. People don't like to take risks when they're hiring. So if they're hiring somebody for the director of XYZ, they want that person to have 8 years of experience as the director of XYZ. That's the perspective of the employer. I certainly understand that. But in my days as an executive recruiter, I used to tell the employer, if somebody was a director of XYZ here, why do they want to take your job of director of XYZ? At minimum, they're going to want to be VP of XYZ. They want the challenge. So people need to show how they're capable of making that leap, making that transition, showing it on paper and verbally explaining it, how they're qualified to the person they're interviewing with.
I couldn't agree more. You're absolutely right. Very, very good point. So let's shift gears really quickly here and talk about those folks who are making a transition to obviously work from home and have never done that before. What are some, because you've been doing it for many years, you've owned your own business for over 30 years. You've mentioned to me that you've used Zoom for many years, like I have, and that you've already incorporated that as part of the way you do business. How would you help somebody navigate who's for the first time having to shelter in place and work from home? What are kind of some good best practices?
It's a long list. Let me give you what I consider to be some of the top ones starting out for people where this is a brand new experience. If possible, set a separate space for where you do your job, definitely from your bedroom. And if possible, a separate room completely. The reason why I say separate from your bedroom is you don't want your computer or your piles of papers or your calendar, your to-do lists to be staring you at the face when you're trying to go to sleep. Those two things don't mesh. You want your sleep environment to be restful and calm, and you want your work environment to be separate. Another thing that I've learned over the years the hard way is set your work hours and set your non-work hours. I'm not saying you have to work 9 to 5, 8 to 5, whatever your hours are, but make a clear distinction. In my early years of working in my home office, it was easy to, I'm going to go empty the dishwasher. I'm going to put a load of laundry in. I'm going to make the bed, whatever, do household chores. And it fills up your day, but then at the end of the day, you say, what have I done? I had 13 things on my to-do list and maybe I crossed off 1.5. I don't feel that good about myself.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to allow yourself breaks, whether it's a coffee break or a food break, but then come back and stay the course. And maybe at your work, you worked 8:30 to 5, and maybe at your home, you can get the same amount of work done from 9 to 3. So you don't have to chain yourself to your desk simply for chaining yourself at the desk.
Right.
But when you're doing whatever you need to do related to work, do it. And make a list. Today, these are my priorities. This is what I want to do. And cross each thing off when you do it. It's very gratifying.
It is. Very
And
cathartic.
yes, it is. And it's creating a certain kind of discipline for yourself that you're in charge, you get to drive the bus. And then reward yourself. Let's say you end at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, whenever it is. Perhaps you want to go exercise. Perhaps you want to make a special food dish or listen to music or call a friend. Your reward for putting in a full day of work, you get to do something for yourself. And organize your day, the hours that you're going to work at work. Organize it according to your highest energy levels and your biorhythms.
That's awesome.
If somebody who exercises regularly, some people love to get up at 5 in the morning and go for that run. For me, it's just the opposite. My reward is at the end of the day. I'll go do some exercise at 5 or 6 or 7 p.m. Now that the stays out light longer, it's great. It works for me. Personally, if I'm somebody who exercises from 9 to 10:30 a.m., it's really hard for me to go back to the office because I feel like I'm playing hooky.
Oh, I see.
But figure out whatever works for you and stick to it and flex that muscle. It's like, whoa, I'm learning this new skill set, even if it's temporary. It's easy to be distracted, particularly now with so many people based at home. They're calling you, they're sending you texts, emails. If it's not work related, try and not respond immediately and just keep a running tab of, okay, now this is my break. I'm going to respond to these people for 20 minutes, or maybe do it in your non-work hours.
to have a running routine and stick to it. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself breaks. Create reward system. I like it.
And it also many times may involve setting boundaries with your family members or your friends. You know, they may call you at 11, you answer the phone, and then you say, oh, why did I answer this call? They're going to want to talk to me for 45 minutes. And you need to say politely early on, I'd love to talk to you, but I've got this deadline related to work. And set up a time where they can talk later.
Yep.
And they're going to get the message. You don't need to be nasty about it. But because your reward is you set these hours for work, and when those hours are done, then you get to leave work. It's really unhealthy to say, okay, I'm going to work 8 hours a day. I'm going to do 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, and 3 late at night. You can do that. But personally, I think that takes a lot more discipline instead of
I agree.
on job and I'm off the job.
Yeah, I totally agree. Very good. So my last question, Joanne, how do people get a hold of you? I know that you have clients all over the country and also internationally. So no matter where you're at, everybody's got Zoom now. You can take advantage of contacting Joanne and figuring this all out. How do they do that?
This is how they do it, Ed. So the name of my company, can you see that, Ed?
Yes, I can. Living Your Dream, Executive Career Coaching. I love it.
That's the name of my company, and my contact information is here.
Excellent.
Can you see that?
Yes, I can. So I suggest you guys do a print screen and then give her a call as soon as you can. Because we're just scratching the surface. She has so many resources and tools. Again, she's been doing it for over 30 years, so who better, right, to do that? Again, I want to thank you so, so much. This was so important. Hopefully, those who have been watching have gotten some really great nuggets, and they contact you as soon as possible. And in the meantime, stay strong and stay healthy.
Ed, I want to make one more comment for your listeners, and that is, if people are interested in speaking to me, I offer a complimentary discovery session.
Oh, wonderful.
Where we can talk about their situation, and I can assess the extent.
Even more of a reason. It's not going to cost you anything to talk with her. I love it. All right. Be well. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye.